Hello and welcome to Tuesday's Daily Rundown with me, Marc Duffy. Tonight on the programme we'll be chatting to an upcoming star, the satirical singer-songwriter Chris Taverner, who will also be performing for us. We'll also be chatting about the big stories of the day, including where your restaurant tips go, why the kids are on strike, and the success story that is the Bank of Mum and Dad. And joining me tonight to make sense of it all are the co-founder and of the Open Intelligence. I have to get that right. It's Loz Kaye.
Hi, good to be
How you doing, Loz? You all right?
Yeah, grand.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
And also, a person I know very well, it's the presenter Paul Burgess.
Hello.
How are we?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good. It's one of those days, really. We've come back to work, haven't we, after the bank holiday, feeling rested, kind of.
After lousy weather. Actually, most of the bank holiday weekend.
It has been.
And today,
lovely sunshine.
Glorious.
Yeah, that's what it's like.
Ain't it the way? But, yeah.
But I think the big story that's like dominating the media today is the Leicester City story.
Well, I mean, fantastic. All the good old sort of cliches come in. It's absolutely, it's the fairy tale, it's the dream come true, all of that stuff, you know. And even if you're a long-time supporter of another club, you can't really begrudge them their sort of moment in the sun today. I mean, we all love an underdog story, and it's like, it's really the underdog story to top them all, really.
It certainly is. Well, it's one of the greatest sporting success stories of all time. Leicester City have indeed won the Premier League. Tottenham's 2-2 draw at Chelsea on Monday confirmed a stunning achievement for Claudio Ranieri's side. Leicester started the campaign as 5,000 to 1 outsiders for the title after almost being relegated last season, and they've lost just 3 league games in what has been described as a fairy tale, as you said, Loz, and the most unlikely triumph in the history of the team sport. As we said, Paul, great news for Leicester. You woke up this morning probably thinking, what's the big deal?
Yeah. And Facebook was, of course, full of it, and I know nothing about football.
Right.
At all. It's a game that really doesn't interest me, which is awful. Well, it's not awful, it just doesn't interest me. I'm not into football at all. So I don't really quite understand what's gone on, and I'm probably one of millions in exactly the same boat. All I know is something great's happened to Leicester by some fluke, and it shouldn't have really happened, and now they're in a place where they might not have been or shouldn't even
it's all to do with how well they've played this season, isn't it? You know, they were the underdogs. They were like 5,000 to 1 to win the Premier League. That's what the odds were last August when the bookies said, you know, they're never going to win the Premier League.
Well, I mean, this is the whole thing. I mean, also, again, the other thing about the internet has been full of all the things that also the bookies said would be actually sort of more likely to happen. So it was going to be more likely, you'd have got better odds on Elvis still being found alive, or Jeremy Corbyn winning X Factor than Leicester winning the Premier League. And so that's kind of fascinating. I mean, I think one of the big things is that people have been so down on the Premier League for so long in terms of also the money, and saying, well, it's just all a bit corporate and it's all getting a bit boring, predictable. So it really needed this kind of this sort of shot in the arm, actually. But I mean, I still think though it's that football's money problem isn't solved, because there's still the question about the massive amount of money that are going into the Premier League, and that's all to do about the football rights deals. So with the Sky and BT deal was worth £5 billion, and now you could do quite a lot with that. You know, you could do quite a lot with £5 billion quid, couldn't you? And I think there's still the question about, well, is this right? Is this skewing? Is it taking the way of the football away from the fans?
Isn't it? It's a big money game. I mean, you know, you've got grassroots football where it all starts, where the kids have a kick around on a Sunday afternoon, that kind of thing, and then we come up and we got semi-professional players, don't we? And then up to the Premier League. This is England's top league football, and for a league that's been dominated by 4 clubs for the last well, it's about 20 years, isn't it?
20 years. Yeah.
So, you know, for the last 20 years, the same 4 teams have been winning it, like some Manchester United, City, Arsenal, Chelsea, all them lot. And for an outsider, complete outsider really, Leicester, to win the title.
So let me ask a question. Have they won because they've won? Because they,
in points,
or have they won by default because of a series of other events?
Well, it goes on a points table, so they are the top of the league on points. They didn't play last night. It was a draw between.
Do you see why I get confused here?
Yeah, well, that was the thing. It's like it's like if you're making the movie of it, it would have been they would have sealed their own fate at Old Trafford on the other night. But so it is one of those things where it's saying, well, it's because of also how the maths adds up. But there were actually quite a lot of people on sort of tenterhooks last night waiting for a draw, which in a way is one of the things that's kind of a bit weird about football. Everybody's getting terribly excited about kind of just actually 2 points on the, you know, one all, you know, but it's something that, you know, people care quite a lot about, and I still don't think that you know, there's I think football bosses, the football TV bosses, will still not be glad because it's a massive branding thing globally, and I think probably outside of England, people will be hard pressed to spell Leicester, let alone say it. You know, it's like
the world's media is pointed on Leicester, and most people in this country probably don't know where Leicester is. You know, it's a small city in the East Midlands. When you think East Midlands cities, you probably think somewhere like Nottingham or something like that, and that's where you concentrate on. But so Leicester is the big name. I've got a couple of facts and figures here for you, because I did mention earlier on they were 5,000 to 1, weren't they, in winning the Premier League title. Just a couple of more stats for you here. It was 1,000 to 1 back in August for Dean Gaffney. You might remember Dean Gaffney. He was what character did he play in EastEnders?
I can't remember, but he was in EastEnders.
He was in EastEnders. He had the dog Wellard.
Ricky.
No, it wasn't Ricky. It was another one. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. I will find out. But Dean Gaffney to win Best Actor at the Oscars was 1,000 to 1. Elvis to be found alive and well was 2,000 to 1. We've got a couple of others. Nessie to be found, Loch Ness Monster, 500 to 1. For the Queen to release a Christmas number 1, 1,000 to 1. So there was this.
Oh, that'll happen really, now, won't it?
Really, really
that,
great ones.
But
it just goes to show that the odds were stacked well against Leicester City, wasn't it? So it's a great story all round.
Do you not think that footballers are one of the reaction to them by people, especially working class people, is one of the big glaring hypocrisies in humanity? And I'll explain. We mourn about how much MPs are paid.
Yes.
We mourn about how much the top tier of society are paid. We're the 1% and blah blah blah. And very few people actually acknowledge how much footballers get paid, and some of them get paid £250,000 a week.
Well, I mean, I think this is absolutely right, and this is kind of particularly where so the stranglehold on football TV rights has actually really inflated that, and it's actually made. I mean, I think you're absolutely right. It is this really sort. It actually kind of really sticks. Sticks in the craw for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I mean, I think because what's extraordinary is like Manchester United's wages bill. I mean, on the last kind of set of accounts that went through, it's over £200 million in a year. So it's also, I just go, yeah, you're fantastic. You give a lot of joy to a lot of people, but this has got really inflated out of all proportion.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why also there's there's initiatives like FC United, for example, which was also a real reaction against for exactly a lot of the reasons that you mentioned about saying it's time to take football back, and it's time to take football back for the fans in a real way. So also to kind of properly get owning the club instead of it becoming like this pawn in a kind of a massive sort of financial game.
We've had, haven't we, the earlier on in the season, fans, walking out of Anfield during a Liverpool match, 77th minute, in protest really about the cost of going to matches and how they will increase to £77 next year. Thankfully, the Liverpool Football Club seems back down from that.
Right.
But yeah, there is a lot of money, should I say, in football. Just to put it into some kind of context, one of the I don't know if it's a striker or whatever for Chelsea, the whole of Leicester City's team costs less than one of the strikers at Chelsea. There is big bucks to be made in it. It's all
But that's all trickle down, isn't it?
And Leicester will get a lot of money now by winning the title. They will get a lot of money. We'll see whether the players still stick around. It'd be great to see another season with the same side to see if they can replicate the success again. But I've got a feeling that some of the larger clubs might want to snap up people like Jamie Vardy, who was a star striker last season. They might want to snap him up, and we might not see another Leicester. I don't want to jinx it. But it might go that way, unfortunately.
But yeah, you've got to ask the question: is right? Well, what is it? How is it that these kind of figures can get inflated in this way? And that's kind of a real question. And in a way, that sort of football's just an example of that happening right across the board.
And it's a trickle down effect, isn't it? It's that people get really bothered by. I can't stand the fact that this MP who does nothing for our area gets paid blah 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 blah. But I'll go out and buy the kit for little Johnny who loves this player and spend a fortune on it. And it's because the players are paid so much money that the tickets cost so much. I'm not against football. I love the idea of fathers bonding with their kids through football. Yeah. But it's I have a very guarded reaction to football because I'm very aware of how much violence there is in general in football. I'm very aware of how we are seen abroad, particularly British fans have wrecked bars and whole areas just from being completely drunk. So it sticks in my craw a little bit, does football.
We'll have to leave it there. We'll take a quick break now, but do come back in a few more minutes for more chats here on the Daily Rundown.